Good morning, friends. As we know, pregnancy is a very important stage, and if the mother is having any infection, certain infections are there which can be transmitted from mother to baby. So these are known as the vertical transmission, and when these infections are being transmitted to child, so they can have that infection, and that is known as the congenital infections. So today we will learn about what are the various congenital infections which can be transmitted from mother to child and how we can diagnose those infections. So congenital infection, that is these are the infection which is transmitted through the placenta from mother to child and may lead to the certain developmental defect in the fetus or certain congenital malformation. Now the agents for transmission of these infections are been given by certain abbreviation like torch infections. Usually it can come as a short note as torch infection. So what is this torch? That is T stands for toxoplasma infection, that is toxoplasmosis. O stand for other infections. So others may they can be congenital syphilis, varicella zoster virus infection, then it can be Zika virus, then malaria. In malaria it can also be transmitted from mother to child. Then R, that is very important infection, that is the rubella syndrome, and C is for cytomegalovirus, H is for herpes simplex. So that can come as a short note. So there you have to tell about the full form of these letters, and then what are these infections, how we can diagnose. Now these congenital infection, they can be transmitted either perinatally or postnatally. Perinatally means during the time of delivery, the baby is taking the infection, that is while passing through the infected birth canal. So most of the infection are during the perinatal, and commonly these viruses are there: herpes simplex virus, cytomegalovirus, hepatitis. Then in the bacteria E. coli, then group B streptococcus is very important, that can be transmitted at while time of delivery. Then postnatally, that is after delivery. So what is the route at that time? That is by the breastfeeding. So if that infectious agent is being secreted in the secretion, so that can come, that can be transmitted to child during the feeding. So these pathogens which are this perinatal, few of them can be like HIV is very important, that can be transmitted at the time of feeding. Now comes to the congenital toxoplasmosis. So that is the most common parasite which can cause this congenital infection. Teratogenic means causing some congenital malformation in the child. So risk is 1 per 1000 live birth. Tracheozoite is the infective stage, and the chances of transmission of the infection and the severity depend upon the gestational age. During the first trimester of first trimester of pregnancy, sorry, so the risk is transmission risk is lowest, but the disease is most severe. And during the third trimester, the transmission risk become very high, 65%, but the infant can be asymptomatic at birth, that means there is no symptoms. So what are the clinical feature for the congenital toxoplasmosis? So there is a triad, that is a chorioretinitis, hydrocephalus, and intracranial calcification. Now other than that, there could be chance of stillbirth and microcephaly, that is the size of the this head is small in case of microcephaly. Then psychomotor disturbances could be there. Ocular involvement, already told that they could be bilateral chorioretinitis. So these are the triad is there. Triad usually being asked. Other features are these: stillbirth or microcephaly. Then how we can diagnose this case? So antenatally, that is when the delivery has not been occurred. So ultrasound, 20 to 24 weeks of gestation, and it can be repeated every 2 to 4 weeks. And second method is that is by PCR, or we can PCR on what sample we can do, that is on the amniotic fluid. So that sample can be taken and we can do the PCR. So important one is the ultrasound. So there we can look for detecting the congenital infection. Postnatally, that is the isolation on the amniotic fluid, placenta, cord, leukocyte, or we can go for the antibodies. So IgM and IgG. As we know, IgG antibodies, they can be transmitted from mother to child. So therefore the titer is very important when you are doing IgG ELISA. So if titer is more than 1000 in neonate, so it can be we can suspect for the congenital toxoplasma. So we have to confirm by the IgM testing. So confirmation is by the IgM only. And for IgM also there is a titer, that is if it is more than 1:4 after 2 weeks of age, then there can be probable diagnosis. And with the help of with the correlating with the features, it can be confirmed. Then there are other tests are also like IgA that can be done, and IgE. Important one is the PCR. We can go for PCR from the neonatal or maternal blood, and fundus examination is also important for chorioretinitis. So what options we have postnatally? That is the ELISA, that is IgM and IgG. Important one is the IgM. IgA you can do, that is beyond 10 days, and IgE and PCR and fundus examination. Then comes the another syndrome, that is the congenital rubella syndrome. So this rubella is highly teratogenic virus, and risk of transmission is maximum in the first trimester. This rubella is a RNA virus and belongs to the Togaviridae family. What are the clinical features? That is, there is also a classical triad. One is of the deafness is there, hearing loss is there. And what type of hearing loss? It's sensory neural. So that is being asked. Deafness is of sensory neural. Then cataract. So one is the eye, then your ear, they are being involved. And third is the heart, cardiac involvement. So cataract is there and cardiac defect. So cardiac defect, there could be patent ductus arteriosus, or there could be pulmonary artery stenosis or ventricular septal defect. So either of the three can be there. Then this is the triad. Then CNS defect, microcephaly could be there, autism or motor delay, or there could be hepatosplenomegaly, bone lesions, or intrauterine growth retardation. Now, how we can diagnose this rubella infection? That is, one is the IgM antibodies. That is a good option. Then IgG antibodies, but the problem is that IgG get transferred from the mother to child. So we are not sure whether these antibodies which we had detected in the child is of mother or is being produced against the infection in the child. So it is being said that after 9 months we can expect that IgG antibodies are that of child. So after that we can suspect of this rubella infection if we are going for IgG. Then we can also isolate the virus by which sample, that is a throat swab or CSF. So we can have the isolation, or the molecular techniques are there, RT-PCR. Then how we can prevent? That is, a vaccination can be given, and that is that there should be a universal immunization of all the women of the reproductive age group. Second, we can also do the vaccination of children of 1 to 14 years with this vaccine. It is a live attenuated vaccine, and it should be given to all the reproductive age group so that this infection can be prevented. Now comes the cytomegalovirus. So cytomegalovirus, it belongs to the herpes viridae family, and it is the largest virus. Cytomegaly means the enlargement of the cell. So there is massive enlargement of the infected host cells. It is a double-stranded DNA, and it infects the kidney and the salivary gland. It also shows the latency. All the members of the herpes viridae, they usually show latency. So it also have the latency. Now, what are the clinical features? That is, the congenital cytomegalovirus infection is there. And what is present in this? That is, cytomegalic inclusion disease has been seen in 5% of the fetus. So they show the psychomotor, hearing, ocular dental defects. And congenital defects, they could be petechiae, hepatosplenomegaly, jaundice, microcephaly, cerebral calcification, IUGR, prematurity, and sensory neural hearing loss. So they could be all these be symptom in the congenital cytomegalovirus infection. Then perinatal cytomegalovirus mostly asymptomatic and virus is shed in the urine and they could be interstitial pneumonitis. Now, in the adults, if there is infection of the so if the adults they are immunocompetent, so it is about the not it's not a congenital infection, but it's being how this cytomegalovirus affect the adults if the adult is immunocompetent. So the picture is usually of mononucleosis like the Epstein-Barr virus, which causes infectious mononucleosis. So this cytomegalovirus can also cause the mononucleosis like syndrome having the atypical lymphocytes. And in immunocompromised adults, there can be the CMV syndrome that is being said, fatigue, malaise, anorexia, but this is not the part of the congenital infection. Now, how to diagnose the case of this cytomegalovirus? That is detection of the inclusion bodies. So, in urine sample, this cytomegalovirus produces characteristic this perinuclear inclusion bodies, and that is known as the owl's eyes appearance. Then virus isolation can be done on the human fibroblast cell line and cytopathic effect can be noticed. That is the inclusion bodies will be seen, multinucleated giant cells will be seen, and the cells which this virus has infected, they have been enlarged. And there is another technique, Shell-Weil technique, which is specifically done in the cytomegalovirus isolation. So that will speed up the process of isolation. Then antibody technique. So antibody diagnosis can be done IgM and IgG. So after 1 to 2 weeks, this antibody will be increased in titer. And after that, once after IgM, the IgG remains there for longer time and it persists for lifelong. Then antigen detection can also be done, that is the PP65 and can be detected by indirect immunofluorescence test, and then PCR is very good test that can detect the specific CMV DNA in the blood. Now comes the neonatal herpes. So neonatal herpes is a rare infection and it has been seen 10 out of every 1 lakh births. It's a serious condition that can lead to the neurological disability, and transmission of this herpes infection takes place during the birth from the maternal genital tract. There are two type of herpes simplex virus, 1 and 2. HSV2 is more common cause for this transmission of herpes virus to the child, and clinically they could be neonatal herpes or they could be congenital herpes. In case of neonatal herpes, local lesions are seen on the skin, eye, mouth. So it has been seen in the child of 9 to 11 days. And disseminated infection when there is disseminated infection of this herpes, so septic appearance is there, deranged liver function test is there. They could be in the CNS, there could be higher risk of encephalitis. In case of congenital herpes, there could be vesicle formation, scarring, eye disease, microcephaly, and hydrocephalus. In case of neonatal herpes, high mortality, approximate 65% is being noticed. Now diagnosis, so PCR, polymerase chain reaction can be done on the vesicle lesions, blood, CSF. In case of asymptomatic infants, swab from the conjunctiva, nasopharynx or mouth can be taken. Treatment is acyclovir for 6 to 12 months. Prevention, treating the mother before the delivery. So other teratogenic agents involves the varicella zoster virus infection, and this chances of transmission of this varicella zoster depends upon the gestational age, and if the mother has acquired the infection in the present pregnancy, there is much more risk of transmission. So the child will have congenital varicella syndrome. There could be cicatrices, skin lesions, limb hypoplasia. This is very important MCQ regarding this varicella zoster. Limb hypoplasia is there, microcephaly, mental retardation, seizures, chorioretinitis, microphthalmia. So this microphthalmia, that is the size of this eyeball is less. Cataract, hydroureter, that is the ureter is dilated. Hydronephrosis, so that this kidney parenchyma that also get dilated. Then comes the neonatal varicella. So in this case, if the mother has developed chickenpox more than 5 days before the delivery, so there will be a chance that the antibodies will be formed, so the child will be asymptomatic. But if the mother has developed chickenpox not 5 days before, but between that days, uh, 5 days to the time of delivery, so antibodies will not be formed and only the infection will be transmitted to the child, so the child will develop the neonatal varicella syndrome. That is, what is this? Severe chickenpox with mortality exceeding 30%. So this is very important, depending upon at what time the mother has developed the infection. Then comes the Zika virus. So this Zika virus is a single stranded RNA virus. It belongs to Flaviviridae family. Monkeys are the reservoir. It was first discovered in the Zika forest in Uganda. Therefore, it has been named Zika virus in 1947. It is being transmitted by Aedes aegypti mosquito. As such, Zika virus does not cause so much problem. It causes mild infection, but it become important when we talk about this congenital infection because this virus is being transmitted perinatally. So there is mother to child transmission, and mainly by the this transmission from mother to child is most common route and very important. Rarely it can be sexual contact or blood transfusion, organ transplantation route can be there for transmission of this virus. So its outbreak occurred in the Brazil in 2015 to 16. Worldwide, more than 5 lakh cases have been reported with 18 deaths. In 2016, Zika virus became the public health emergency of international concern, and in 2018, 290 cases from India have been reported, and maximum from the Rajasthan and the Madhya Pradesh. What are the clinical features? That is mostly asymptomatic and mild symptoms are there: fever, rash, conjunctivitis. What is important for Zika virus is the mother to child transmission that gives the congenital Zika syndrome. So there will be microcephaly, neurological manifestation, neurological complications are also there like Guillain-Barré syndrome, neuropathy, myelitis. So what can be done? That is up to 7 days PCR or the nucleic amplification test. So it can be done in the blood sample or in the urine sample for 7 days. After 7 days, antibodies will be formed. So IgM antibody from 1 week to months. There is also another test, that is plaque reduction utilization test, but it is not being preferred. So we can go for the either for PCR or for with the antibodies. Then other infection is the congenital syphilis. So in congenital syphilis, early syphilis is there. So there will be the child will be snuffles. That term is being used. They have a rhinitis. Mucocutaneous lesions are there. Bone changes, hepatosplenomegaly, lymphadenopathy. In case of the late congenital syphilis, the child is non-infectious and there will be certain stigmas of this syphilis will be left. That is the Hutchinson's teeth, Mulberry molars, saddle nose, Schaberstein, Croton joints, interstitial keratitis, and eighth nerve deafness. So these stigmata of syphilis being commonly asked, so these are very important manifestation. How you can diagnose, that is either by dark ground microscopy or reactive treponemal test in the infant with silent symptom, abnormal CSF finding, reactive VDRL CSF, or IgM FTA ABS, that is fluorescent treponemal antibody absorption test, or IgM ELISA. So these are the very important tests which can be done in case of the congenital syphilis. So in case of malaria, they can also be mother to child transmission of the infection. In case of Plasmodium falciparum, that can be transmitted by transplacental route. And what is infectivity? That is the merozoites. And it has been seen when there is this infection is seen malaria in the pregnant lady. So there could be fetal distress, premature labor, low birth weight child, or stillbirth. So for diagnosis, cord blood or placental impression smears can be used for making the thick and thin smear. So that's all for the congenital infection. If you have any doubt, you can ask me in the comment section. Thank you.